So our final guest today is Michael O'Keefe, Deputy Principal Learning and Teaching from John Paul College in Victoria. Another case study, unlocking the potential of AI in the classroom. Welcome, Michael.
Miriam and I were talking before and I said, the pressure's more on you than me. It's how long you're going to leave me. 11 minutes, here we go. My journey is a little bit different to a lot of people's here today. Like we heard from Steve from Ivanhoe and then Miriam from Hillbrook and the students at Kilbreda that put lots of things in place around AI as quick as they could. At John Paul, where I'm the new Deputy Principal this year, we put nothing in place. So we're like the test case of let's see what happens when AI just gets out there and there's no real policy apart from the normal plagiarism policy. I only put those pictures up, they're all AI, but I reckon I look like John Hattie in that first one there. I just wrote Deputy Principal and that's what came up. So my school is in the beautiful suburb of Frankston, which is here in the southeast of Melbourne. Those of you who live in Melbourne know it gets a bit of a bad rap sometime, but we are in this beautiful little pocket right where all the golf courses are. In fact, our school used to be is built on an old golf course itself. Just to give you some context about our school, we have 1,200 kids, co-educational, middle to low socioeconomic. Fees are about $6,500 a year. The students bring their own computers with a minimum specs, though as we know that doesn't always work. And you can see our student pathways at the end there. We are governed by Melbourne Archdiocese Catholic Schools, who we heard from Mary before. So they're like the department for Catholic schools, only came about 3 years ago after the Royal Commission. And so now we have a governing body that look after us, though we sort of still can act a little bit more independent than the department schools can. And I'm tipping Macs aren't going to use AI anytime soon to get a new logo with all those spelling mistakes. But that's what it gave me when I said, give me a logo. I spelt it right when I put it in. Okay. So what happens over the summer? We've talked about this a lot today, but AI arrived. And of course, when you get there, there's a massive lack of local expertise because the teachers have no idea what it is. We know teachers struggle with change anyway, let alone this big change. And those of you that work in schools know that you don't have any access to your teachers early on in the year. Like they're just straight into classes. You can't just stop the school and say we're going to run a PL on AI for the next 2 days to get on top of it. And of course, there's no curriculum in place for AI. So there's just nothing happening. I'm new to the school. So we just say nothing, essentially, and see what happens. And so what does happen? Well, Macs start working on a policy, and we heard from Mary today, so we'll just wait for that, and as we know, it hasn't arrived yet. Tech-savvy teachers, they get on board, so they just start leaking it into their classrooms. Kids start to slowly engage with it, though as we know, they've been engaging in other areas of AI, but the ones we've been talking about today, they get on board. And I think the biggest growth was actually the staff using it for administration purposes rather than teaching and learning. So particularly middle leaders and upper leaders are doing all their letters home to parents, putting it back through GPT and seeing what it comes back as, and some lesson planning and ideas and stimulus, but less actually in the classroom. So I asked some of our students if they would like to let me know what they were doing. So I sent an email out and said, I'd like to interview some of you for this little chat today. And a lot of them thought that I was doing it to catch them whether they were cheating or not with AI. So that was the first hurdle. But I got a few to give us their thoughts on how they're using AI. I asked them a couple of basic questions. What are you using and what are the issues with it? And some teachers as well. So these are their thoughts.
ChatGPT for most subjects. English and business management would probably be the ones I use it the most.
Note is an app that you can put PowerPoints and Word documents and I believe even PDFs. It will scan any document or PowerPoint for text and then create flashcards and notes out of it.
I also use an image generation tool called ClipDrop with Stable Diffusion. And I used that in a business management report that I was writing to assist in my product that I was pitching.
Well, I suppose the challenges would be regulation, in the sense that it's more than possible that I can copy paste text from AI into online media folio and then submit it without any issue of plagiarism.
Information is inaccurate at times, so you've got to check if it's correct. Like certain equations might be wrong, some resources might be invalid.
Sort of worry about if AI will impact the ability to do assessments on technology, because I find I do work a lot better on technology, as it can assist my learning a lot more than having to do it all by hand.
We had some Year 10 students who were starting their inquiries for history, so they needed to come up with a question for their research about the Vietnam War. So students used it first, they used ChatGPT first to generate a list of topics about the Vietnam War. Then from there, they could pick a topic and write a question.
We just did a Year 11 business management SAC, and like they had to come up with business ideas, and they got to use AI just to create the logo, because they're not getting assessed on that, but they wanted to create a cool logo to represent their business, and it came up with some really cool ideas.
So in terms of saving time, I've used it to write emails. I've used it to quickly create a resource. Say I've had a YouTube video that I've liked, and I've put it through different types of AI, and I've generated questions for it. Or summaries for it.
Slides GPT, I kind of used to give me some pictures and some information as basically like a skeleton, and then from that I obviously try and add in my own information and from previous resources.
So just today, even asking my students to generate a list of topics or to ask it to write questions, they really didn't know what kind of prompts to put in. They didn't know how to ask the AI to do that for them. So I think that that's a space that we certainly need to spend some time working with our students, is teaching them how to use the different AI and to do it in a way that's useful and that's safe.
My Year 9 humanities class, we do a lot of essay writing or extended responses, and they're allowed to bring in notes. And I think the issue we've been having is that obviously they go on ChatGPT with like the prompt or the idea, and then they just grab whatever quotes or whatever information they can and put it on a sheet. So the challenge is trying to get them not to obviously copy off that sheet and ChatGPT and have their own ideas. So we're creating assessments now where like we kind of watch what they're doing research-wise and what they can bring in. And it's pretty easy to tell if they're using AI, because they don't like to change the Zs, because obviously it's all the American spelling. So I think that's probably our biggest challenge so far, is just preventing kids using it in their assessments.
So I think there's a beautiful summary there of what we've been talking about today. They don't know how to write prompts, staff are a little bit unsure of exactly how to use it, and that is our big challenge. So to AI or not to AI, here's just a beautiful example of when you don't say anything as a leadership team and just allow it to evolve. So in Year 9, our students in English read Romeo and Juliet. They then write an essay, and that is their essay question. In the past, and as of this year, they've always been allowed to bring in reference notes, and they've been given that question before the day of the task. Now, that hasn't been an issue in the past, because teenagers are so lazy, they're not going to go home and write the whole essay out to copy it on the day. Never happened before. Of course, guess what happens this year? They all just bring it in pre-written because they had the question already, and on the day it looks like reference notes, but it actually was just the whole essay, and they just copied it over in front of the teacher. So one simple fix there would be, don't give them the prompt question for the task. Just say you can bring in reference notes about Romeo and Juliet, and it's going to be about fate. Full stop. Go. Your heart content with AI. Get as much out of it as you want, because on the day it'll be about how you've interpreted that information. But of course, there's a lot more to discuss in this space around assessment. So we've seen some surveys today, and actually they're all coming out very similar. So we surveyed our students, but just so that I had something to measure it against, I asked my friends over at Emmaus College, which is up the road in Vermont South, to do that. And I'll go back because I wonder if my little video will work here, just so those people not from Melbourne will know exactly where it is. In Vermont South, which is just a little bit up the eastern suburbs, a bit more a different socioeconomic area. So I just thought, well, it'd be interesting to see whether the kids up there are thinking the same thing. So James Valla, who's the director of e-learning up there, helped me out with sending out this same survey to his students there. And this is just their context, about the same size as us, both co-educational, middle socioeconomic. So the parents are a little bit wealthier with the $9,000 school fees. Their computer is book listed, so every student has the same computer at year 7, and you could see there a few more go to university than at my school, which is just a reflection of where we are in Melbourne. So when you see the results, the ones in red are Emmaus and the big ones are ours. So very simple, are using AI, about 40% at my school, a bit of a jump there, probably a reflection of the socioeconomic area. Their parents are probably more likely to be using it up at Emmaus than our parents are, so that's probably reflecting on the students. What are you using? Mostly ChatGPT, but you know, I didn't think about Snapchat, even though my 11-year-old daughter talks to her AI bot most nights. That was their number one other on the outside there. You can see, though, generally pretty much the same across the two schools. This is what best describe why you're not using it. This was the kids that said they weren't. They just don't think it's relevant. So that's a lot of education needs to be had there. Interesting to see that difference there in the socioeconomic background. The kids in Frankston think it's less relevant to the kids up the road. And the number one reason outside of other is it's cheating. This is that constant theme that kids keep thinking about. Again, we haven't intervened yet. Interesting to hear today a lot of people have, which is great. How comfortable are you using it? So you can see there, middle of the road. I think we saw that in some of the similar surveys we've seen today. How do you learn about it? So most of them are learning about it from social media. And again, and friends or peers who have probably learned it from social media. So you could see 2 different schools in 2 different areas of Melbourne having pretty much the same outcomes. So I'm assuming we could probably say that this is fairly common across most schools. And do you want to learn more about it? Yeah, they do. Not as overwhelming as I thought they would. So what's next for us? Professional learning for both us and the students. I think that is the number one. We have to be rethinking assessment and the way that works. And of course, policy needs to come into play. And we've heard a lot about policy today in some schools ahead of the game. That's a little bit of a snapshot and just in time for people to get drinking. So thank you everyone for this afternoon.